The massive Vorthok warship moved through space like a giant metal insect. Its black hull gleamed under the light of distant stars as it approached another peaceful world. Inside the ship, Quinn Commander Vexhai stood in the control room, her 6 arms moving across different control panels. Her hard-shell body was dark green and covered in spikes. Like all Vorthok, she looked like a giant bug that could walk on 2 legs. Ambassador Yuna sat in a small prison cell deep inside the ship. She was from the Centauri Alliance, a group of peaceful planets that tried to keep peace in the galaxy. But peace was hard to find when the Vorthok were around. Through the small window in her cell, she could see the beautiful blue and green planet below. It was called Harmony Prime, and it was home to millions of gentle people who had never hurt anyone. The Vorthok had been conquering planets for over 200 years. They had taken control of 847 star systems. Everyone in the galaxy feared them. When Vorthok ships appeared in the sky, people knew their world was about to end. The Vorthok were perfect killers. Their hard shells could stop most weapons. They could talk to each other with their minds, so they always fought as one big army. No one had ever beaten them in battle. Yuna watched as small Vorthok ships flew down to the planet. She knew what would happen next. Vorthok would land and give the people a choice: become slaves or die. Most planets chose to become slaves. It was better than being dead. On the planet below, the people of Harmony Prime gathered in their crystal cities. They had built beautiful homes that looked like they were made of glass and light. Their leaders stood in the main square waiting for the Vorthok to arrive. They had heard stories from other worlds. They knew resistance was impossible. The first Vorthok dropship landed with a loud crash. The door opened and 20 Vorthok warriors marched out. Each one was 8 feet tall and covered in natural armor. Their eyes glowed red, and their sharp claws clicked on the crystal ground. The people of Harmony Prime stepped back in fear. Quinn Commander Vexai's voice came from speakers on all the ships. Her words were translated into the local language, but her voice still sounded like metal scraping against stone. "People of this world," she said, "you now belong to the Vorthok Empire. You will work for us. You will give us your resources. You will obey our commands. If you fight us, you will die. If you try to hide, we will find you. If you try to run, we will hunt you down. This is your only warning." The leader of Harmony Prime stepped forward. He was an old man with silver hair and kind eyes. "We are a peaceful people," he said. "We have never hurt anyone. Why do you want to hurt us?" One of the Vorthok warriors moved faster than the eye could see. Its claw swept through the air and the old man fell to the ground. The people screamed and ran, but there was nowhere to go. More Vorthok ships were landing all around the city. Up in space, Yuna closed her eyes and tried not to listen to the sounds coming from the planet. She had seen this happen so many times before. The Vorthok always won. They always took what they wanted. The galaxy had tried to fight them many times, but it was no use. The Vorthok were too strong, too smart, and too many in the control room. Quinn Commander Vexhai looked at a star map. Red dots showed all the planets the Vorthok controlled. Green dots showed planets they had not conquered yet. There were not many green dots left. "Commander," said one of her officers, "we have received word from the advanced scouts. They have found another world to conquer." Vexai clicked her claws together. This was the sound Vorthok made when they were happy. "Show me," she ordered. A picture appeared on the main screen. It showed a small blue planet with white clouds and brown land. It looked very ordinary. It's not rich like some worlds, not advanced like others. Just a simple world with simple people. "What do we know about this planet?" Vexai asked. "It is called Earth," the officer replied. "The people there are called humans. They've only just learned to travel between planets. Their weapons are very basic. Their ships are slow and weak. Intelligence reports say they spend most of their time fighting each other instead of working together." Vexai studied the image of Earth. It looked like it would be an easy conquest. The humans probably did not even know the Vorthok existed. Yet, they would be surprised when the invasion fleet arrived.
"How many humans live on this planet?" she asked. "About 8 billion, Commander." "Good, we need more workers for the mining operations." Set course for Earth. We will add this world.
To our empire? The Vorthok ship turned toward Earth. Behind it, the planet Harmony Prime was already changing. The beautiful crystal cities were being torn down. The people were being put into work camps. Now the world had fallen to the Vorthok Empire, but Earth was different. Earth was about to teach the galaxy that some species do not know how to surrender. Admiral Minho stood on the bridge of the Earth's defense ship Defiance and watched the sky fill with enemy ships. He had been in the Earth's Navy for 20 years, but he had never seen anything like this. The Vorthok fleet was huge. 300 black ships, each one bigger than a city, came out of space and moved toward Earth like angry storm clouds. "Sir," said his communications officer, "we are getting reports from all around the world. The alien ships are everywhere. They have surrounded our planet." Minho looked at the radar screen. Earth had 50 defense ships in space, and they all looked very small compared to the Vorthok fleet. The human ships were made of metal and used rocket engines. The alien ships looked like they were grown instead of built, with smooth curves and organic shapes. "All ships," Minho spoke into his radio. "This is Admiral Minho. Today we fight for our home. We fight for our families. We fight for the future of humanity. Do not give up. Do not surrender. Make them pay for every inch of space." The first alien attack came without warning. Bright green beams shot out from the Vorthok ships and hit the Earth's defense fleet. The human ships exploded like firecrackers. In just 5 minutes, half of Earth's space navy was destroyed. On the surface of the planet, Dr. Han was working in his laboratory in Seoul when the attack began. He looked out his window and saw bright lights falling from the sky like shooting stars. But these were not stars. They were Vorthok dropships carrying invasion troops. "Everyone needs to get to the shelters," Dr. Hyun told his assistants. "The aliens are coming down to the surface." The first dropship crashed into the middle of Seoul's main street. The metal door opened with a loud hiss, and steam came out. Then the Vorthok warriors emerged. They were exactly like the stories from other worlds described. 8 feet tall, covered in hard green shells, with 6 arms and glowing red eyes. They moved like giant insects, fast and deadly. The people on the streets screamed and ran, but Lieutenant Gina and her squad of soldiers were ready. It set up positions on the rooftops and in the buildings around the landing site. "Wait for my signal," Gina whispered into her radio. She watched as 20 Vorthok warriors formed a line and began marching down the street. They expected the humans to run away like everyone else in the galaxy did, but humans were different. "Now," Gina shouted. Her soldiers opened fire with their rifles. The bullets bounced off the Vorthok armor, but they made the aliens stop and look around. The Vorthok had never faced an enemy that shot back after seeing their invasion force. One of the Vorthok warriors pointed at the building where Gina was hiding. It said something in its clicking language to the others. Then they all started moving toward the building. "Fall back to position 2, Gina ordered her squad. They ran through the building and out the back door. As they ran, Gina pressed a button on a small device. The building exploded behind them, and 3 Vorthok warriors were buried under the rubble. The other Vorthok stopped and looked at the destroyed building. In their shared mind, they felt confusion. These humans had just destroyed their own building to kill a few Vorthok. This was not normal behavior. Most species tried to save their buildings and cities. More dropships were landing all over Earth. In New York, London, Tokyo, and Moscow, Vorthok warriors emerged, expecting easy victory. Instead, they found humans who fought back with everything. They had Engineer Wu was in his workshop in Busan when the aliens landed near his city. He looked at his tools and supplies, then began working quickly. If the aliens wanted a fight, he would give them one. "Mina," he called to his daughter, "help me carry these boxes to the truck." "What are you making, Dad?" Mina asked. "Surprises." "For our new visitors," Wu replied. He had filled the boxes with homemade explosives made from fertilizer and fuel. It was not fancy, but it would work all over Earth. Similar scenes were playing out. Humans were not running away. They were not surrendering. They were fighting back with whatever they could find. Farmers used their tractors to ram Vorthok vehicles. Office workers threw computers and chairs from high windows. Children helped their parents dig tunnels and hiding places. The Vorthok had conquered 847 worlds, but they had never faced anything like this. On every other planet, the people had leaders who surrendered to save lives. Earth was different. Earth had 8 billion people, and they all seemed to think they were leaders, Captain. Day was leading a group of civilians through the subway tunnels under Seoul when they heard Vorthok voices echoing from above. The aliens were searching the buildings, looking for humans to capture. "We can hide down here," suggested one of the civilians. "No," Day said. "We fight back. Help me plant these explosives in the tunnel when they come down here looking for us. We will give them a warm welcome." The Vorthok had expected Earth to fall in one day like most worlds did. But as the sun set on the first day of invasion, they controlled only the landing sites. The rest of Earth was still fighting in space. The few remaining human ships continued to attack the Vorthok fleet. Even though they were badly outnumbered, the Vorthok had never seen anything like humanity before. 3 months had passed since the Vorthok invasion began. The aliens controlled most of the major cities, but the humans had not given up. They fought from the shadows using hit-and-run tactics that confused the enemy. Dr. Tay worked in a secret underground laboratory beneath the ruins of Seoul, studying captured Vorthok equipment and prisoners. "I think I found something important," Dr. Tay told the resistance leaders who had gathered in his lab. He pointed to a Vorthok warrior sitting alone in a cage. The creature looked different from the others. Its red eyes were dim, and it moved slowly, like it was confused. "This one was separated from its unit for 2 days," Dr. Tay explained. "Watch what happens when I ask it a simple question." Dr. Tay approached the cage and spoke in the Vorthok language, which he had learned from computer files. "What is your mission?" The Vorthok warrior looked at him with empty eyes. It opened its mouth, but no words came out. It seemed lost, like a child who could not find its parents. "Now watch this," Dr. Tay said. He turned on a radio that was playing Vorthok communication signals from other parts of the city. As soon as the warrior heard the voices of its kind, its eyes began to glow red again. It stood up straight and answered Dr. Tay's question clearly. "They are connected," Dr. Tay said excitedly. "Their minds are linked together like a computer network. When they are alone, they cannot think properly. But when they are connected to other Vorthok, they become smart and dangerous again." Captain Hannah had been listening carefully. She was a Special Forces soldier who had been fighting the Vorthok in the city streets. "So if we can cut their communications, we can make them weak." "Exactly," Dr. Tay replied. "Their greatest strength is also their greatest weakness. They are perfect soldiers when they work together, but they are helpless when they are alone." Hannah smiled for the first time in months. "Then we need to make them alone." The next day, Hannah led a small team of soldiers through the destroyed streets of Seoul. They moved carefully, avoiding Vorthok patrols. Their target was a tall building where the aliens had set up a communication tower. The tower sent signals to all the Vorthok forces in the city, keeping them connected to their hive mind. "Remember," Hannah whispered to her team, "we go in fast. Plant the bombs and get out. Do not try to fight them directly. We are not strong enough." The team climbed through the broken windows of buildings near the tower. Engineer Wu had made special explosives that would destroy the alien equipment without making too much noise. The Vorthok guards at the tower stood perfectly still, like statues. They did not expect any attack. Hannah and her soldiers moved like ghosts through the building. They placed the bombs on the communication equipment and set the timers. As they were leaving, one of the Vorthok guards turned toward them. "Humans detected," the guard said in its mechanical voice. But before it could call for help, the bombs exploded. The communication tower collapsed in a shower of sparks and smoke. All across the city, Vorthok warriors suddenly stopped moving. They looked around in confusion, no longer able to hear the voices of their brothers in another part of the city. Engineer Wu was building more weapons in his hidden workshop. He had learned to make signal jammers from old television parts and car batteries. The devices were simple but effective. When turned on, they blocked Vorthok communications in a small area. "Mina, take these jammers to the resistance fighters in the subway tunnels," Wu told his daughter. Tell them to turn them on when they see Vorthok patrols coming. Mina nodded and put the devices in her backpack. She was only 16 years old, but she had become an expert at moving through the city without being seen by the aliens. As the weeks passed, the human resistance became more organized. They shared information about Vorthok weaknesses. They learned that the aliens were strongest in large groups, but became confused when separated. Human fighters began using this knowledge to their advantage. Lieutenant Gina led a group of civilians in an attack on a Vorthok supply convoy. Instead of fighting the aliens directly, they used noisemakers and smoke bombs to confuse them. When the Vorthok could not see or hear each other clearly, they made mistakes. Split them up, Gina ordered her people. Make them chase us in different directions. The humans ran through the ruins of the city, leading the Vorthok warriors into traps. Some aliens followed the humans into buildings that collapsed on them. Others were led into areas where signal jammers blocked their communications. The Vorthok had never faced an enemy like this before. On other worlds, they had fought organized armies with clear command structures. But humans fought differently. Every human seemed to be a leader. Every human seemed to think for themselves. Captain Day was organizing attacks in the subway tunnels when he received a message from other resistance groups. The same tactics were working all over the world. In London, New York, and Tokyo, humans were using the Vorthok's hive mind against them. The aliens are getting weaker, Day told his fighters. They're making more mistakes. Keep attacking their communication centers. Cut them off from each other. For the first time since the invasion began, the Vorthok were retreating from some areas they had never retreated before in their long history of conquest. But Earth was teaching them that even the strongest predators could become prey. News traveled fast across the galaxy. For the first time in 200 years, the mighty Vorthok Empire was losing a war. On distant worlds where alien slaves worked in mines and factories, whispers spread like wildfire. The humans of Earth were fighting back, and they were winning, Captain. Dana stood on the bridge of her captured Vorthok ship, looking out at the stars. 6 months ago, she had been a pilot in Earth's small defense fleet. Now she commanded a warship that had once belonged to the enemy. Her crew was a mix of humans and freed alien slaves who had joined the fight against their former masters. Capta, said her communications officer, a blue-skinned alien named Kix. We are receiving distress signals from the mining colonies near Proxima Centauri. Human prisoners are being held there. Dana studied the star charts on her screen. Vorthok had been using human prisoners as slave labor on dozens of worlds. It was time to bring them home. Set course for Proxima Centauri, she ordered. It's time to return the favor. The Vorthok had made a terrible mistake. They had assumed that capturing human prisoners would break Earth's spirit. Instead, it had given the humans a reason to take the fight beyond their own world. Every human ship that left Earth carried crews who were angry, determined, and very dangerous. On Earth, General Kong coordinated the war effort from his underground command center in Busan. The city above had been destroyed in the fighting, but the humans had built a new command center deep underground. The walls were covered with maps showing Vorthok positions across the galaxy. Sir, reported his intelligence officer, we have confirmation that 17 Vorthok-controlled star systems are in rebellion. The local populations are fighting back. Using the tactics we taught them? Kong smiled grimly. The humans had been sharing their knowledge with other species across the galaxy. They had taught them how to jam Vorthok communications, how to separate enemy forces, and how to turn everyday items into weapons. What about the Vorthok homeworlds? Kong asked. Their Queen Commander is recalling forces from the outer systems. They are trying to protect their core territories, but their empire is falling apart. The psychological impact was devastating to the Vorthok. For generations, they had been the hunters, the predators that other species feared. Now they were being hunted by creatures they had considered primitive animals. Queen Commander Vex High paced in her command chamber on the Vorthok homeworld. Her once perfect hive mind was fragmenting under the stress of constant defeats. Individual Vorthok were beginning to question orders, something that had never happened before in their species' history. Commander reported one of her officers. The humans have attacked another supply convoy. They used our own weapons against us. Claws scraped against the metal floor. The humans had not just learned to fight back, they had learned to think like Vorthok, to use Vorthok technology, and to turn the Empire's own strength against itself. "How many systems have we lost?" she asked. 43, Commander. "And the rebellions are spreading." Back in space, Captain, Dana's ship approached the Proxima Centauri mining colony. The facility was built on a rocky asteroid surrounded by defensive platforms. Hundreds of human prisoners worked in the mines, digging rare metals for the Vorthok war machine. Remember, Dana told her crew over the intercom, "We're not here to destroy everything. We're here to save our people and free the other slaves." The attack was swift and precise. Dana's crew had studied Vorthok tactics for months. They knew exactly where to hit to disable the defenses without killing the prisoners inside. The Vorthok defenders were confused. The attacking ship looked like one of their own vessels, but it was being commanded by humans. They had never faced this situation before and did not know how to respond. Within hours, the mining colony was under human control. Thousands of prisoners were freed, including not just humans, but members of dozens of other species who had been enslaved by the Vorthok. "Thank you," said a freed prisoner, tears running down his face. "We thought no one would ever come for us. We never leave our own behind," Dana replied. "And we don't leave our friends behind either." Similar rescue missions were happening all across Vorthok space. Human ships, often crewed by mixed teams of humans and freed aliens, struck at mining colonies, slave camps, and isolated outposts. Each victory inspired more rebellions on other worlds. The Vorthok had built their empire on fear. But fear was a weapon that could be turned against them. Now they were the ones who were afraid. They were afraid of humans who refused to surrender, afraid of slaves who had learned to fight back, afraid of an empire that was crumbling around them. On a distant world, a group of Vorthok warriors found themselves cut off from their command structure. Without the hive mind to guide them, they were lost and confused. Local rebels, inspired by human tactics, surrounded them and demanded their surrender. For the first time in Vorthok history, their warriors laid down their weapons without a fight. The galaxy was learning a new truth. The species that everyone had feared was not as strong as they seemed. And the species that no one had known about was stronger than anyone had imagined. The hunters had become the hunted, and the prey had become the predators. The war ended not with a great battle, but with silence. Across the galaxy, Vorthok communication networks went dark one by one. The great hive mind that had connected billions of warriors for centuries finally broke apart like a shattered mirror. Individual Vorthok found themselves alone in their own thoughts for the first time in their lives. On the Vorthok homeworld, Queen Commander Vexhai sat in her empty command center. The clicking sounds of her species had stopped. Her officers stood around her, but they were no longer connected. Each one was thinking their own thoughts, feeling their own fears. "What do we do now?" asked one of her former officers. His voice sounded strange, uncertain, without the hive mind. He was just one confused creature trying to understand a suddenly quiet world. Vexi looked at him with new eyes. She had never really seen her officers as individuals before. They'd all been parts of the same mind, extensions of her will. Now she could see that this one was young and scared. Another was old and tired. They were people, not just weapons. "I do not know," she said quietly. These were words no Vorthok Queen Commander had ever spoken before on Earth. Your President Ray stood in the newly built Terran Federation headquarters, looking out at the stars through a massive window. The building was constructed from materials taken from destroyed Vorthok ships, a symbol of humanity's victory. But it was also built with help from freed Vorthok, who had chosen to work with their former enemies. Ambassador Yuna arrived for the signing of the peace treaty. She looked different from when she had been a prisoner on the Vorthok ship. She was older, with lines around her eyes, but she smiled more easily now. "It is hard to believe," Yuna said as she walked beside President Ray. 2 years ago, the Vorthok seemed unstoppable. Now look at them. Through the window, they could see a group of former Vorthok warriors working with human engineers to repair a damaged space station. The aliens moved carefully, unsure of themselves without their hive mind to guide them. But they were learning to make their own decisions. They're not evil, President Ray said. They were just trapped in a system that made them into killers. Now they have a chance to become something else. The peace treaty was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen before. Instead of one species ruling over others, it created a system where all species could govern themselves. The Terran Federation would act as peacekeepers, but they would not be conquerors. Dr. Tay, now promoted to head of alien relations, worked with former Vorthok scientists to understand their technology. Many Vorthok were eager to share their knowledge, grateful to be free from the burden of endless war. "We never wanted to fight," explained a Vorthok scientist named Kekthar. He had trouble speaking at first, unused to expressing individual thoughts. "The hive mind made us fight, could not choose." "Now you can choose," Dr. Tay replied. "What do you want to do?" Kekthar thought for a long moment. "I want to build things instead of destroying them. I want to help people instead of hurting them." Across the galaxy, similar conversations were happening. Former Vorthok warriors were learning to farm, to teach, to heal. Some struggled with their new freedom, but others embraced it. They formed friendships with the species they had once enslaved. Captain Dana had been promoted to admiral, and now commanded a fleet of mixed ships crewed by humans and aliens working together. Her flagship was still the captured Vorthok vessel she had used during the war, but it had been rebuilt and renamed the Unity. Admiral reported her communications officer, "We are receiving a distress signal from the Kepler system. Pirates are attacking a civilian transport. Set course for Kepler," Dana ordered. "Time to remind the galaxy that bullies are not welcome anymore." The Unity and her escort ships jumped to hyperspace. The pirates who had been attacking the transport ship fled as soon as they saw the Terran Federation fleet arrive. Word had spread throughout the galaxy. Earth ships meant business. On distant worlds, children who had grown up as slaves were now learning to read and write. Schools were built where prison camps had once stood. The galaxy was healing, but it was slow work. Engineer Wu had become the head of a new organization that helped rebuild worlds damaged by the Vorthok. His daughter Mina worked beside him, now a skilled engineer in her own right. "Dad," Mina said as they watched former Vorthok workers helping to build a new hospital on a liberated world, "do you think we did the right thing?" Wu looked at the construction site where humans, Vorthok, and dozens of other species worked together. "We did what we had to do," he said. "But more importantly, we did what we chose to do. That is what makes us human." The Terran Doctrine became the foundation of the new galactic order. It was simple. Every species had the right to be free, to choose their own path, and to defend themselves from those who would take that freedom away. Human patrol ships now traveled between the stars, their hulls bearing the words "peace through strength" in dozens of languages. They were not conquerors, but guardians, protecting a galaxy that had learned the difference between the two. The species that had once been feared everywhere had taught the galaxy a new kind of fear, the fear of those who refused to surrender their freedom.